You evil beast! Dustin snorted disdainfully and raised his foot once more, stomping down forcefully. The onyx glass head sank further from the powerful impact. Cracks spread across the ground within a radius of 10 meters, resembling a vast spider web. The onyx glass roars gradually diminished with the severe blow, and its massive body seemed to lose its strength. It finally stopped struggling. Only heavy panting and mournful sounds remained. Quick, lock it up. It was only then that Anders instructed someone to lend a hand. The exhausted onyx claw was soon securely bound with chains and dragged into a specially made iron cage. Finally, the cage was covered with a black cloth, concealing its fierce appearance. After making sure that there was no longer any danger, the crowd breathed a sigh of relief. That was close. When the onyx claw suddenly went berserk, it had been unstoppable. Fortunately, a brave soul had stepped up and intervened. Otherwise, many more might have been injured or killed. Godfather, I failed to tame the onyx claw well and caused people to be hurt. Please, punish me. Anders didn't hesitate to kneel and take responsibility. Seamus frowned slightly before quickly regaining his composure. He said calmly, "It's all right. A beast is still a beast. They are hard to tame in nature. You are not to blame for an accident like this. However, you must send those injured to receive the best medical care promptly. Do not neglect the situation. Thank you for your forgiveness, Godfather. I will surely make amends for my mistakes." Anders then immediately instructed his men to clear up the scene. The onyx claw was soon brought away. All the injured people, including Julie, were sent to the hospital to be treated. As for the guards who had lost their lives, they received honorary medals along with substantial compensation for their families. It appeared as if the issue had been dealt with, but it had sparked a small commotion within the ballroom. It's strange. Why did the onyx claw suddenly go berserk? Isn't it supposed to be intelligent? I heard that onyx claws don't randomly attack people. They only attack traitors and wicked people. Wasn't the woman who was attacked Shamozi's most recent goddaughter? Could she be harboring wicked intentions? Whispers and speculations circulated among the guests. Everyone now looked at Dahlia differently. Rumors had always been circulating about Seamus' new goddaughter, ranging from being an illegitimate child to a reincarnation of a fox spirit, creating a myriad of speculations. The earlier incident only intensified suspicions about her identity. Thank you for coming to my rescue, Mr. Adams. I am truly grateful. Dahlia approached Dustin and thanked him after regaining her composure. She would currently be inside a beast if it hadn't been for him. It was nothing. Dustin responded nonchalantly. He never intended to attract attention, but he couldn't help but intervene when he saw Dahlia in danger. Young man, you are undoubtedly highly skilled and courageous. You single-handedly subdued the onyx claw. It's truly remarkable. Suddenly, Seamus spoke. You're too kind, Sir Mosey. My skills are nothing worth mentioning. Dustin replied humbly. You're too modest, young man. I must offer you a toast for your brave act. Seamus smiled and raised his wine glass, toasting Dustin from a distance. Dustin appeared flattered and quickly raised his glass in response. The crowd was envious of the situation. To be singled out for a toast by Seamus was a tremendous honor. If this young man could gain his favor, his future would be boundless. Godfather, Mr. Adams here subdued the onyx claw and averted a disaster. To show our sincerity, how about rewarding him? Anders suddenly stepped forward, actively trying to gain Dustin's merit. Sir Anders, you're too kind. I wouldn't dare accept any rewards, Dustin said with his head slightly lowered. Saving a life is no small matter, regardless of the reward given. You definitely deserve it. Anders smiled and patted Dustin on the shoulder. Dustin's eyebrows twitched slightly, sensing a chilling energy infiltrating his body through Anders' palm. The chilling energy was so faint that it would be a challenge for an ordinary expert to notice. However, as time passed, this chilling energy would gradually intensify until one day it would erupt. When that happened, one would either go to the extremes or, at worst, die a sudden death. It was a truly malicious measure. Dustin was puzzled. Why would Anders resort to such measures when they had no apparent conflict? Did his earlier actions of saving Dahlia anger him? Dustin suddenly came to a realization and glanced at Dahlia discreetly. The onyx claw had been calm the entire time. It only lost control after nearing Dahlia, as if it had been triggered. Dustin hadn't realized earlier, but it must have been the work of Anders. This man had nerves of steel to use the onyx claw to get rid of his competition on a birthday celebration. Did he really think he could defy the laws just because he was a god of war? Anders is right. His noble actions deserve a reward. Seamus said with a smile, "Young man, if you have anything you need, just say the word. As long as it's within my abilities, I won't refuse you." Dustin put on a hesitant front. What he wanted was the emerald corolla, but it was clear that Anders would never give it to him. "Godfather, I have a suggestion. May I speak?" Anders asked. "Go ahead," Seamus nodded. "Mr. Adams is a talented, courageous young man. It's a rare sight nowadays. Dahlia is also currently single. Why don't we arrange for them to get married? It would make for a good story as well," Anders said with a smile. Dustin froze in place upon hearing him, displaying a mix of shock and disbelief. How did he still manage to end up in a situation like this when he had a different appearance and identity? Marriage. Dahlia frowned immediately upon hearing this. They had just met today, and she barely knew anything about Rhett. Even if he had saved her life, agreeing to a marital commitment was a big jump. It was evident from Anders' words that he saw her as a tool, a commodity that was up for sale. It made her extremely uncomfortable. "Anders, marriage is a serious matter. You shouldn't treat it lightly." Seamus raised an eyebrow. "Godfather, Mr. Adams and Dahlia are a match made in heaven." Coupled with his heroic actions, they seemed destined for each other. If they got engaged today, it would undoubtedly be a doubly joyous occasion, Anders advised. "Dahlia, what do you think?" Instead of giving a direct answer, Seamus turned to Dahlia for her opinion. "Godfather, I'm extremely grateful to Mr. Adams for saving me, but to repay him with marriage is something I just cannot bring myself to do." Dahlia shook her head gently. "Dahlia, marriage is often decided by the parents. I'm afraid you have no say in this," Anders said with a smirk. "If I have no say, then you certainly have no say either," Dahlia retorted. "Why not? An elder brother is just like a father." Maintaining his composure, Anders turned to Dustin with a smile and asked, "Mr. Adams, what do you think?" "I appreciate your goodwill, Sir Anders, but I'm afraid I'm not worthy of Miss Nicholson with my humble status." "There is no need for marriage," Dustin declined politely. "Mr. Adams, don't underestimate yourself. Everyone here witnessed your heroic deeds earlier. With a little bit of effort, your future will be limitless. You and Dahlia are a perfect match." Anders continued persuading him. "Think about it. If you marry Dahlia, you will become a part of the Mosey family. If you encounter any problems in the future, we won't stand idly by. Moreover, Dahlia is an exceptional beauty ranked on the beauty ranking with countless admirers. This opportunity is one in a million. You should seize it." His words stirred a commotion. Plenty of young talents looked at Dustin with envy and jealousy. This guy actually managed to get a marriage proposal from the Veros warrior. He's really lucky. Dahlia is a renowned beauty and Sir Mosey's goddaughter. Anyone who marries her will not only have power and influence, but also have a beautiful woman to go home to. It's like hitting the jackpot. Damn it, why aren't I that lucky? The crowd whispered among themselves. To become Seamus' son-in-law was something countless people dreamt of. Not to mention, Dahlia's beauty made it seem like a deal made in heaven. "You're right, Sir Anders. Marrying Miss Nicholson would definitely make my life easier." A sly smile formed on Anders' lips when he heard Dustin. As expected, few men could resist the temptation of both beauty and power. However, his smile froze with Dustin's next words. Nevertheless, I must decline because I already have a fiancé. What? Anders frowned. Mr. Adams, are you sure you won't reconsider? Is your fiancé more beautiful or influential than Dahlia? It has nothing to do with appearance or influence. We love each other, and that is more than enough, Dustin replied earnestly. Anders found himself momentarily at a loss of words. This guy was like a block of wood, completely unresponsive to his efforts. And it wasn't only Anders. Nearly everyone present was astonished and confused. Dustin's outright refusal was unexpected. This was a golden opportunity that only came once in a lifetime. While others prayed and wished for this chance, Dustin appeared indifferent to the whole affair. Was he genuinely in love, or just a complete idiot? All right, since both of them are unwilling, let's drop the matter. Seamus finally spoke. Young man, you're not only courageous, but also possess an outstanding character. Your unwavering commitment to your principles is truly admirable. If you encounter trouble in the future, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Thank you, Sir Mosey. Dustin immediately expressed his gratitude with a bow. Dahlia sighed in relief. At the same time, she became curious about the seemingly ordinary man before her. Even though she wasn't one to rely on her appearance, being rejected was an unfamiliar experience. Unknowingly, she felt a twinge of jealousy as she thought about the man's fiancé. It wasn't easy to find such a capable and devoted man. I hope you won't regret your choice, Anders said in a lowered voice, his gaze growing more hostile. Dustin had inadvertently disrupted two of his plans in a row. What a stroke of misfortune! His hatred for him would not be resolved until he was dealt with. Come, everyone, enjoy the food and drinks. Don't be shy, Seamus called out, bringing the mood back to being lively. Despite the incident, the celebration continued undisturbed. However, Dustin became the center of attention for many, since he had effortlessly subdued the Onyx Claw and declined the Veros warrior's marriage proposal. He seemed anything but ordinary. After a hearty meal, Seamus temporarily excused himself from the party to rest. The guests moved from the ballroom to the lounge, enjoying spectacular performances arranged by the Moseys. Meanwhile, Dustin and Abigail followed the flow, maintaining a calm presence without drawing undue attention. Their sole responsibility was to monitor Anders' movements in case of unforeseen developments. The actual thief who would be stealing the emerald, Corolla, was someone else entirely. Azalea, a master of the face-changing art. Azalea was once a disciple of the Dark Lord who later turned away from her dark path and became Abigail's bodyguard. After Abigail's true abilities were awakened, and she returned to the Mystic Arts Order, Azalea was also put in an important position. In order to execute their plan more effectively, Abigail spared no effort in bringing Azalea from afar. She had been responsible for both Dustin and Abigail's disguises. Dustin, there's good news. At that moment, Abigail glanced at her phone and said happily, Azalea just messaged, confirming that she has successfully obtained the Emerald Corolla. We can leave at any time. Oh, that was smooth. Dustin raised an eyebrow, pleasantly surprised. He had specially prepared to plans in case something went wrong, but it seemed like they wouldn't be necessary. When Anders went to change earlier, he conveniently left the Emerald Corolla in his room. Azalea disguised herself as a Mosey member, effortlessly infiltrating the room and securing the Emerald Corolla. Abigail explained. What luck! Dustin's expression brightened, and he secretly breathed a sigh of relief. With the Emerald Corolla in hand, he now had all 3 medicinal herbs required to refine the sanctifics successfully. Tomorrow, he was going to awaken Cinna. When the time came, he would uncover the truth behind the events from 10 years ago. Regardless of who the enemy was, he would make them pay. Dustin, since we got what we came for, should we leave now? Abigail asked. There's no need to rush. Dustin shook his head. If we leave too soon, it might raise suspicion. Let's stay a little while longer. We'll leave when someone leaves. All right, there's plenty to eat and drink anyway. And there's performances to watch. And it's all free. I think it's a shame to leave now to you. Abigail chuckled. With so many delicacies and fine drinks, they would have to spend tens of thousands of dollars for it themselves. But they could enjoy it all for free here. It was indeed a luxurious experience. Mr. Adams, Dahlia suddenly approached them with a smile. Thank you for saving my life earlier. If it wasn't for you, I would have been killed by the onyx claw. This is a small gift of my appreciation. I hope you'll accept it. As she spoke, she took out an emerald badge and handed it to Dustin with both hands. The back of the emerald badge was exquisitely carved with dragons and phoenixes, displaying exquisite craftsmanship. On the front, the word Mosey was carved on it. You're welcome, Ms. Nicholson. But it was nothing really. Even if I hadn't stepped in, I believe there would have been many brave heroes that would. Dustin said, downplaying his role. He made the risky decision to save her due to their past relationship and didn't expect anything in return. No matter how you put it, you were indeed the one who saved me. It's only right for me to express my gratitude. This is the Mosey's Consultant Badge. If you require any assistance in the future, you can use this badge to reach out to me. I'll be sure to offer my full support, Dahlia insisted, pushing the emerald badge into Dustin's hands once again. Dustin hesitated. This emerald badge must be very expensive, right? Abigail asked expectantly. Expensive? Dahlia was slightly taken aback. She then nodded with a smile. I suppose so. Mosey's Consultant Badge was a priceless treasure far beyond the measure of mere money. Having it was akin to having the Moseys as an ally of support. This was an opportunity for which even the wealthiest people would sacrifice their wealth. Haha, then we'll gladly accept it. Upon hearing about its value, Abigail accepted the emerald badge without hesitation. Even if they didn't use it for themselves, they could sell it to someone else. There was no reason to refuse such a priceless treasure. Thank you, Miss Nicholson. Dustin gave in. If he continued refusing her, it might lead to her suspecting them instead. Mr. Adams, please enjoy yourselves. I won't disturb you any longer. After a slight nod, Dahlia prepared to leave. Miss Nicholson, please wait a moment. Dustin suddenly called out. Mr. Adams, is there anything else? Dahlia turned back, looking puzzled. Miss Nicholson, since you gave me the emerald badge, I'd like to offer you a few words in return. Dustin continued seriously. I believe Onyx Claw suddenly losing control was not an accident but a deliberate setup. A setup? Dahlia furrowed her brow slightly. What makes you think so, Mr. Adams? Onyx Claw showed no signs of unusual behavior at first, but after approaching you, it seemed to have been triggered and suddenly turned aggressive. Don't you find that strange? Dustin asked in return. It was indeed strange, but I still don't have an explanation for it. Dahlia shook her head. She didn't believe in the idea that the Onyx Claw was spiritual and could distinguish between good and evil. Although she was no saint, she would never harm anyone. If I'm not mistaken, someone did something to you, Dustin explained. What do you mean? Dahlia was puzzled. Your perfume smells strange. Abigail sniffed before she spoke unexpectedly. Really? Dahlia sniffed but didn't notice anything unusual. I'm using a regular perfume that many people use too. It's not the perfume that's the problem. Someone added something to your perfume, probably a hint of blood. Abigail took another sniff and concluded. You're right. Dustin nodded in agreement. It would be difficult for an ordinary person to detect the faint scent of blood. But animals have a unique advantage in this regard. The Onyx Claw must have sensed it. I see, Talia nodded in realization. No wonder the Onyx Claw turned aggressive the moment it approached. It turned out that someone had tampered with her perfume. Rhett, I have another question. Abigail tapped her chin thoughtfully and asked, You mentioned earlier that the Onyx Claw is an intelligent creature. It's also been tamed. It shouldn't have turned so aggressive if it had just been a hint of blood. right? That's the main issue, Dustin said with a serious expression. What if the scent of blood on Dahlia is of the Onyx Claw's companion or offspring? I get it. Abigail suddenly understood. The Onyx Claw could smell its family and mistakenly thought Dahlia had killed them. That is why it suddenly went berserk. Most likely, Dustin nodded. The Onyx Claw wouldn't have gone so crazy unless driven by vengeance. What a cunning scheme! Abigail marveled. First, they presented the Onyx Claw as a gift, then spread a rumor to lay the foundation. Next, they used the scent of blood to mark their target. If Miss Nicholson had been killed, not only would she have died in vain, but she would also endure blame and suspicion. What a perfect scheme! Upon hearing this, Dahlia furrowed her brow, her expression turning grim. If they were right, then she had an idea who the mastermind was. The only person brave enough to pull off such a scheme among the Moseys was Anders. However, she couldn't understand his motive. They held no grudges, so why would he attempt to kill her? Miss Nicholson, I believe you already know who is behind this. You must be extremely cautious in the days to come, Dustin warned solemnly. Someone as strong-willed as Anders wouldn't give up easily once they set their minds on something. Even though his attempt today had failed, he would definitely find another opportunity next time. Even though Dahlia was protected by Sir Mosey, she was still powerless before Anders. Thank you for the reminder, Mr. Adams. I will always be alert. Dahlia nodded. After a moment of hesitation, Dustin eventually pulled out a name card and handed it over. If you ever encounter danger, calling this number should help. Thank you. Dahlia accepted it with a faint smile. Since he could subdue the Onyx Claw effortlessly, he must be no ordinary person. Being his friend would be an advantage. While they were chatting, the door to the lounge suddenly swung open. Following closely, Anders walked in with a dark expression, accompanied by a team of guards. Halt the program, everyone, on your feet. A thief has robbed the Mosey's mansion, and I'm conducting a search. Anders' authoritative voice immediately captured everyone's attention. Robbed. The crowd exchanged looks of disbelief upon hearing this. Who could be so bold as to steal something from the Mosey's mansion? Were they not afraid of losing their lives? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very sorry for being this rude, but the missing item is important to me. Please forgive me. Anders first apologized to the crowd before continuing. I will now conduct a search with my hunting dogs. I kindly request that everyone stand where you are to prevent unnecessary misunderstandings. After speaking, he made a gesture, instructing his subordinates to secure all entrances and exits. Then, two well-trained hunting dogs arrived, and the inspection began. Even though his actions had crossed a line, nobody dared speak out due to his identity. They could only cooperate obediently. Conduct a thorough search. Don't miss any corner, Anders commanded with a stern voice. He had returned to his room to rest, only to find his emerald corolla missing. This precious, rare treasure of his could absorb spiritual energy and significantly enhance his cultivation speed. He usually kept it on him at all times, but he had left it in his room today when he changed. He couldn't believe someone would dare infiltrate his room and steal something from him. The guards led the hunting dogs through a thorough search, moving through the crowd continuously. Since the emerald corolla had Anders scent, the thief would be swiftly identified if they carried it with them. However, after an extensive search, the hunting dogs found nothing. Sir Anders, we've conducted a thorough search, but there's nothing suspicious here, one of the guards reported. Search again, Anders insisted, feeling dissatisfied. Yes, sir. The guards led the hunting dogs through another round of searching without hesitation. However, they still found no trace of the emerald corolla. This outcome left Anders visibly displeased. They had scoured all the likely places but still found nothing. And this was the most suspicious place. If the thief didn't hide it here, where would they hide it? At that moment, Anders' gaze landed on Dustin. He asked coldly, "What Adams was it? Please cooperate. I'll need to pat you down." A pat down. Dustin raised an eyebrow. Sir Anders, I've been here the entire time and never went anywhere else. You're not suspecting me, are you? The innocent have nothing to fear. If you haven't stolen anything, you have nothing to worry about. I'm just conducting a routine check. Just in case, Anders said with a straight face. His instincts told him that there was something off about this young man. Sir Anders, don't you think it's a bit inappropriate to only pat me down when others are present as well? Dustin narrowed his eyes. Not only you, but I'm also searching this young lady beside you. Anders pointed at Abigail. Why, you're going to search us just because you want to. What do you take us for? Abigail was upset. If both of you have nothing to hide, why are you resisting? Anders asked darkly. So those with nothing to hide should agree to a pat down? What kind of twisted logic is this? Abigail argued. Enough of your nonsense. If Sir Anders wants to conduct a search, you have no right to refuse. One guard shouted sternly. The audacity! Dahlia was angered and raised her hand to slap the guard. She declared, everyone present here is an esteemed guest of the Moseys. How dare a mere guard like you act so brazenly? You, the guard gritted his teeth. When he saw Anders' lack of response, he held back his anger. Dahlia, I've lost a very important item. I can't afford to overlook anything. I'd appreciate your cooperation. Even though he was displeased, he maintained a calm facade.